Warning. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good sexy voice days to me. Hello, everybody. How you doing? I'm here sitting at home suffering from the 2000-year flu that has been going on since December and never getting better. Enjoying life and everything that it has to offer, including this wonderful flu that I'll never get over it. How are you all doing today? We have a fantastic show today. We have some great shows coming up. Let me promote the next two shows like I always do before we get into today's show, which is going to be a barn burner. We have that today. So next week on the 19th, we have Mr. Steve Gilmore, Mr. Brent Leary. We are going to be talking about new models of shell information. I have no idea what that's going to be like, but it's going to be fun. So make sure you join us next week if you want to understand how the world of video, the world of narratives, the world of content, the world of Gen AI, we'll try not to talk about that shit. The world of everything comes together to create new information that needs to be shared with executives and everybody else. Week after that, one of my favorites of the month, Dave Hirsch, founder of Jive. I had to write this down because I keep confusing it. Founder of Jive, the old community platform, and author of a recent book and working the second book, wants to talk about, is there a better model for companies that are actually making money? It's a very, very interesting perspective. It's talking about how stuck companies that don't have a possibility of growth, can actually embrace a new model and grow and become good again. And then after that, we go into April, and we'll promote April when we get there. So without any further ado, and if you hear me coughing and gasping for air, I've been doing that for a few days, so I'm getting good at it. But without any further ado, my guest for today and I are going to be talking about the outlook for 2024. And here is the one, the only, the amazing, the irreplaceable, the fantastic Liz Miller. Oh, hey, you have the flu too, huh?
It's catching. It's everywhere. It's not going away. And I don't want to call this a flu-demic, but I kind of feel like that's what I need to call it. I need to come up with
this show is brought to you by Ricola.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, it's brought to us by every cough drop manufacturer known to man. Well, I've tried all of them, and nothing seems to want to.
I think I'm on my third pack this week. So.
We around here we all gulp like Delsum, and we're like shots.
I love Delsum, dude. That's the only thing that works.
Delsum's my best friend.
Right I'm gonna have to reach out to them and make my sponsor for next show because
hashtag Delsum. Let me tell you.
I know.
Right. They're like, this cold is so bad that like now they're only down to like the orange Delsum.
That's what I take.
Oh no, the grape is far superior.
Oh really? I'm done to the point that instead of teriyaki chicken, I'm making Delsum chicken for dinner.
Yeah, seriously. Like let me marinate this chicken and nothing but Delsum and maybe a little Robitussin, depending on which strain I have.
I take NyQuil in the morning, DayQuil in the morning with my coffee, and Delsum for dinner, and then NyQuil at night before I go to bed. So
breakfast of champions,
noodles, baby. Anyways, thank you for joining us one more time.
Of course,
you are one out of my three co-hosts. We are one of my three favorite co-hosts. I have to say. So.
Wow, and to say that out of three people, that means a lot, man.
Thank you. Like I tell when I go play poker, I tell the dealers all the time, you're my second favorite dealer after everybody else.
After everyone else.
Everybody else.
Everyone else. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. But thanks for being here. So this is going to be fun. So two rules. I can't drink today, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have made it a drinking game. But I wanted to make it a drinking game. If you mention AI, you got to take a slot. Because I don't want to talk about AI at all. I want to talk about.
It's the Voldemort of enterprise technology right now.
It is.
It's either Voldemort or Beetlejuice. Like if you say its name too many times.
It still doesn't happen though. But you can say it
forever.
It
doesn't work. It doesn't work correctly. And really, just what happens is a new contract with some new pricing shows up. Yeah. That's about it. It's
that's why I don't want to talk about it. There's really nothing to talk about. I keep having conversations on the new Twitter called LinkedIn about it. I keep talking about I like this. Thank you so much, Brent, for the comment. I appreciate it and I agree.
Yes, brought to you by Delsum.
Yeah.
Yes, hashtag
but anyways,
there he is.
I want to talk about the outlook for 2024 and beyond. I
Yeah.
hate doing 1 year predictions because nothing gets done in a year other than waste
No.
money from bad budgets. But I want to talk about you have your year in the enterprise. You're in the right places. You're in the right boards and the right executive teams. So let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen in 2024 if you don't mention Voldemort. So that's a number one rule.
Yeah.
Rule kind of continue for what I was just saying. Let's not make this like if you don't do this by December, you're gonna go out of business. We know how that worked.
No, and that never works. That never happens.
Yeah, I want to avoid the if you don't do digital transformation, you go out of business, and then COVID comes, nobody's digital transform, and everybody survives.
They're like, oh shit, right? Everyone, like the businesses that stayed in business are still in business. Like it's funny. I can't tell you how many times I've wished a company would go out of business, and I would just think maybe that they just do this. Like I will give them the advice, like don't do digital transformation, hoping that they'll go out of business, and they're still here like a cockroach. So none of my.
I thought that you said, "Oh, I'm going to give them the bad advice on purpose because they'll do it and they'll go out of business."
I will, and like they'll, but like so here's the problem. Last year, in my mind, was almost more disruptive, at least for people in roles in traditional like marketing, sales, service, commerce departments, because we got thrown Voldemort, right? And Voldemort was covered in glitter, right? Like it was like, oh my god, it is the most fascinating thing, and every vendor turned their flashlights on, and it was like a Voldemort party. And we spent a year with our eye off the ball. Like let's be honest about what happened in 2023. We got super distracted by Voldemort. Like that's all we wanted to talk about. It's all anyone wanted to think about, to the point where if you look at what happened in 2020 with the pandemic, where people were like, snap, world shut down, pandemic. Everyone at least moved. Like everyone went and did something, right? Like no one sat there and was like, ooh, COVID. Let me stare at it for a while. Like you changed, you adopted strategies, you changed your processes, you updated your thinking, you updated your operations. It may not have gone perfectly. It may not have gone far. You may have changed one things and not 50 things, but you changed something. Last year, we just sat and stared at a shiny ball in the middle of the room and we're like, this could save us all. And here we are in 2024 and we're like, like, yeah, like now what do we do? So I think that we kind of lost a year in our momentum a little bit. So I think in 2024, a lot of folks are just trying to shut out BS, and they're trying to actually change substantive things that get them back to growing. Because we stalled. We stalled our momentum.
Let me get back to the comment in a second, but I mean, my perspective on this, right, to put the playing field where it belongs. My perspective on this is we're in the post-digital world. I mean, we don't care about digital transformation because it's been proven that it's not what actually going to get us anywhere, right? I mean, COVID happened, nobody died. Yeah, doesn't matter. And we're in a post-pandemic. We're in recovery mode. I mean, 2023 air travel went higher than pre-COVID. 2023 budgets got higher growth than pre-COVID. It's like COVID never happened right now. 2024 is the first year that like we really resume where we were in 2019 for the most part. We lost 5 years and we're here trying to figure it out, right? So I see the whole investment in Voldemort as a distraction because there was nothing going on. And I think that people got to the point where they need to figure out where to put their money. And this is a very tough.
I think that I totally agree with you. I think that it is probably a little bit worse though, in that it wasn't just that they put investments there, they took budget and dollars away from critical projects that absolutely had to happen, like security, in order to fund Voldemort, right? Something that wasn't going to pay off. So CEOs are running around saying, oh, just cut some of your security budget and put it into that because I want to see if Voldemort's real. That we're going to have to recover from, and quickly, right? Because we're seeing now, I mean, look at the headlines just from the last week. You've got Microsoft in the throes of a breach that was actually kicked off with SolarWinds. Okay, so, remember how we all forgot about that bad boy? but we all wanted to talk about it for so long. Like, oh my God, SolarWinds. Oh my God, everyone suddenly knew what a supply chain attack was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that breach, they started unraveling that onion last week, right? So there are some critical things that have to happen that got kind of conveniently tucked into these little names called digital transformation because we wanted to sound cute, right? But the reality is they're really important. It's like really important things that are happening. So things like security, things like automation, things like really actually understanding not just your data, but doing something with it instead of sitting around and luxuriating around the fact that you put it into a table.
Data literacy is one of the biggest problems that I still continue to see. It's like people don't understand what data is, right? They don't
100%.
know how to use it. They don't know where it comes from, what it's for, or anything. And yet, no, we are not talking about what we're not going to talk about. We're setting the groundwork for where we're going.
A lot about what you weren't going to talk about.
Yeah. We're setting the groundwork for where we're going from here. I mean, you have to acknowledge. You can't ignore it, dude.
Right.
I mean, we're acknowledging that it's there. But I agree with you. I think that security. I think that the data usage. I think the data literacy, data usage.
Yep.
I think that architecture transformation. I mean, we finally got to the point where distributed is working well, and we understand it enough to make something with that. Those are the areas where I see huge investments.
But I'm worried about the next round of buzzwords. I mean, let's leave Voldemort behind, right? I'm seeing a next round of buzzwords hit the bingo card. And for 2024, that has me a little worried because everyone wants to call themselves low code, no code platform. Everyone wants to call
themselves. We did that 2 years ago. It didn't work.
No, it's coming back. Here's the problem.
Yeah, but it's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter because again, it's about distraction, right? So if we keep distracting people away from
but here's the thing:
the reality of what should be happening, you're never going to get to a point of data literacy if everyone's like, "Oh, I don't have to get to a point of data literacy. I've got a no-code platform."
Yeah, but other than a handful of vendors that call themselves headless low code, which is literally like not even two handfuls of vendors doing that, you can't invest in low code, no code. What's your investment in low code, no code? There's no vendor that you're going to buy that is going to make you low code, no code. There's no training you can give your people. So then what are you investing in when you go in that direction?
Application development. I'm not kidding you. I sat on a briefing yesterday, and that's literally what I got told. Now, is there benefit to low code and no code tools? Absolutely. Absolutely. I literally had to keep a straight face, be like, who's doing this? Like, who's using this? Who do you think is trained? They're like, oh, no,
well, that's the key, right? So
you don't need to train it.
How do you train for no code, low code? I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, what you're gonna go with pick your favorite established vendor that has a low code. First of all, low code, no code is an interface. It's not an application development strategy. It's nothing more than an interface for your users to do something on their own. And you can throw a fucking Copilot on top of it. Doesn't make it any easier to use. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're not literate in data and processes, you're never gonna do anything out of it. That's the bottom line.
So it's true, but here's the thing. I think that when we talk about what are enterprises doing for 2024, the thing I keep hearing about, or the thing I'm not hearing about, is the word you just used, which is training. Right? I'm not hearing a whole lot of conversation around if we're in this post-digital age where we've all decided, okay, listen, we are digital. We're not just going to try to go do individual random acts of digital things. We're digital enterprises, like we're there. We have to admit it. Moving forward, we're not retraining and reskilling our people to exist in a post-digital world. We're just asking them to. All we're doing is asking them to accelerate their digital transformation ideals or their old processes from 10 years ago, and pretend like they can still do those processes and still exist in that operational posture today. They can.
Do you have an example? Do you have an example? Do you have an example of that?
Do I have an example of how people are doing that?
If you don't, it's okay. No. An example of
marketing. I think marketing automation is a great example of that, because I think that what tends to happen in a marketing team and in marketing operations is we look at everything like a campaign in a linear fashion. when digital inherently allows us to look at things in a distinctly non-linear fashion, right? We look at marketing deployments as a write the email, collaborate on the email and approve it, find your segment, deploy the email. And then we look at it in that stance. And then maybe once a quarter, we'll all pull that out and be like, oh my God, this is amazing. We can see a trend. Emails do so much better when you deliver them when people are awake. And we act like this is amazing. I've completely rethought marketing operations but we're talking this big talk around journeys, journey optimization. So we talk the talk of operations in a post-digital world, yet we still execute as if we're still sending mail. Print the letter, fold the letter, stick the letter in the envelope, put the stamp on, mail the letter,
wait 2 weeks
for
and get a
reaction.
return card.
Wait 2 weeks and get a return card, or wait 1 week and someone calls your 800 number. That's the same linear nonsense that we're doing. We've just applied it to digital channels without understanding that there are automations, there are workflows, there are ways that we can actually cross these streams. If someone's never opened one of your damn emails, why are you still sending them an email?
By the way, speaking to what you just said, I've seen a huge resurgence of conversations on the journey mapping, journey optimization in the last, few weeks. Like it's coming back, which I deride as much as I did before, because we haven't made any advances on that. We're still thinking that we're going to document them and make them work and everything, And Brent says we send emails because it's easy and painless to send emails.
Well, it's cheap, right? In our minds, it's still free, right? It's free because we still compare it to what it costs to print something and send bulk mail. But we live in a post-digital world, don't we? So haven't we changed that mental model? The reality is we haven't, right? We haven't changed that mental model. So I think that what I tend to see in things like marketing automation is when people do actually start to think about journey and journey optimization, it's much less about the technology we're using to try to mystically get a journey to appear. It's going to be far more about the data literacy and being comfortable in interrogating data differently so that we can ask better questions about why the journey failed. It's not about what journey is successful. It's about why did they not do what we expected them to do? Right? Like why are they not? Why did this not work? We thought it was going to work. All the data said that it was going to work. Why did it not work? We're not asking different questions and we're not looking at data differently. So we just keep doing the same linear thing in the same linear manner, but because it's digital, we do it faster, cheaper.
So let's take it one step further. I mean, going back to my original question, right? What do you invest in at that point? Do you invest in a better CDP? Do you invest in like a quantum campaign software, which I don't know if it exists, but coming to your TV in the next 6 months?
Please, dear God, no. Yes.
Quantum is the next shit. You're gonna start seeing things like quantum campaigns. What happened if the email is open and not open at the same time?
So help me. And we're gonna see quantum
showing us A/B testing.
Oh God. Next thing you know, you're going to say something about the API economy, and I'm going to have to tell you that 2010.
No, dude, I would never.
You're going to hey, 2010 wants its thought leadership back. Thanks.
1995 wants its thought leadership
1995,
back.
yeah, 1995 wants its thought leadership paper back. Could you please send it?
But seriously, what do we invest in? I mean, like I agree with you that marketing is a good example, and journey optimization. I keep seeing more and more conversations coming up on automating customer service. Name of this company that escapes me that replaced 700 agents with chatbots. They didn't replace anything. They just implemented self-service, and they could have replaced the work of 700 people, which was a really missed number for the headline. But so then what are we investing? What are we investing in?
So I think it really I think smart companies are investing in, well, certainly a lot of training. I think that training has to change. We have to look at different places and we have to look at very drastically different training for our people. Yeah, marketers, hey, you got to take that. You do have to take that data class, right? You do have to do all those things. I think the other thing, as far as if you're saying what are we investing in by way of technologies, I think there are a lot of things that are missing that need to fill in the gaps that aren't like glitterware, right? So I do think that people, so I think that people who have, I think that the people who invested in something like a CDP, so you brought up a CDP, right? So if you invested in a CDP because you wanted to buy a marketing toy that only dealt with marketing things, A, I'm kind of hoping you lost your job. B, when you get a new job, don't do that again and actually buy a CDP, right? So it's not about the CDP that you bought, it's about your bad thinking about what to do with that CDP. So
Okay.
go actually aggregate customer data, not just marketing nonsense that goes in one location. So now that you've aggregated all of your marketing data, I mean, high five and congratulations. But it's actually about where are you harmonizing and unifying your actual customer data from across all the functions, right? How are you putting that in there? And then how do you right size that to CRM, right?
So
And
then
have you
we're
even
talking.
thought about it?
So we're talking about literacy, basically, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Training in
Oh,
literacy.
fundamentally, like I 100% agree with your statement that data literacy is probably one of the biggest problems that we're facing today, because
Yeah.
it's not just about, because, and it's literacy at a very large level. You kind of have to open up the aperture on what you're talking about literacy. It's not just about being comfortable that you're dealing with data, and it's not just about comfortable about like, oh, I know where the data goes. You have to understand the fundamental structure of it, that there are so many different types of it, that you're going to have that structured and unstructured data. Sure, fine. That's what we've all focused in on. But you're also dealing with that events, the event data, the clickstream data. Like, where can you pull all of this together so that you can actually create a data sentence, right? So data literacy isn't just about knowing the word. Literacy is about being able to know the word and how that word then constructs sentences, and how that sentence then constructs a thought, right? That's the whole point of literacy, is how do you actually get from letters to thoughts? And we haven't done that with data. We think about data and we think about where we're going to store it. So everyone wants to talk about the data lake, the data warehouse, the data swamp, the blah. So we think about how we store it, how we structure it. But then what we're not doing is saying, okay, now that we know how we've done that, how do I start to put those pieces together so I can come up with a different data word, a different data sentence? How can I turn that data sentence into a data thought so I can actually interrogate it and actually question that hypothesis? How do I not be afraid of it?
Can I extend your example to a little bit more business terms? How do you turn data into a process? How do you turn a process into an outcome? Would that be like the word, the sentence, the paragraph?
I think that the missing part of it is that how do you then automate that?
No,
Right?
but then we go
It's the
back to
automation.
Voldemort.
Yes,
Then we
it's the
go back
thought.
to Voldemort. Then we go back to
Not
Voldemort.
necessarily, right? It's not necessarily Voldemort, right? Because you got to figure out what part of Voldemort. Like Voldemort's wand would be kind of cool to
I'm
have.
not. I'm
You
not
know,
talking
like
about
I
Gen
think,
AI. I'm not talking about Gen AI
right,
and LLM. That's crap. But that's a good starting conversation point, right? But if you really truly look at what and I'll be drinking by now if I wasn't sick. But if you're truly looking at what AI can offer, and yes, you can never leave Voldemort behind. I agree, because it's everywhere. But if you truly look at what AI offers as outcomes, the outcomes of AI are optimization, predictability, automation. So you're talking about
right,
automation, you're talking about an outcome of AI, basically. So
yes,
which by the way is advanced analytics, is not AI, but that's a different story. But then, what you're talking about is perfectly right. I mean, we're not, a little bit of a wrap up of where we've been. It's not about a technology. It's not about Voldemort or
correct,
AI or anything like that. It's not about being digital or non-digital, or being like intelligent or unintelligent. It's about how do we actually begin to automate the processes? This is a conversation we started in
right.
1993 when CRM first came about.
But it's also a
Salesforce
conversation that you've
automation.
been having for years, right? It's also,
Yeah.
yes, it's about how to automate that, but it's also about how did you structure it? I mean, you brought it up earlier. How are you looking at the architecture of that? We sat around, I mean, we sat around talking about the fundamental architecture on which cloud had to sit, on which, okay, everything's composable. Like don't not, and I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about the hype of everything being headless, right? I'm actually talking about the fundamental architecture on which everything needed to sit. We worked that out. Like that's done, right? We're done with that. That was the whole digital transformation exercise. Now go use it.
Yeah.
Go use it.
Well,
Go use it as the
but that's it.
platform, right?
Use it.
Go
Yes.
use
Use
it.
that platform. Yeah.
Right. Like go use it as the foundation, but that's the foundation. And then you put your data on top of that. Because you know what? Like where was your data going to go if it wasn't going to go on top of that composable architecture? Like what the hell were you building it for then? Just so you had it?
So then let me ask you, I mean, are you having these conversations in organizations with executive teams that they're saying, oh, we're investing in security, we're investing in architecture, we're investing in journeys and outcomes, We're not investing. We put some money into, like, some couple of vendors that said they had AI. We gave them some money to test and tell us what it works, but we're not doing anything there really over there. I had an earlier conversation with somebody on LinkedIn about the human in the loop bullshit. If you need to put somebody to make sure that it works, then it's not working. Take the person and take the project out.
If you thought you didn't have to have a human involved in it to the first place, it wasn't ever going to work. Like, it just.
But that's what you're talking about when you talk about automation. Automation is about not having the humans involved.
Right, but it's automation of this. All of a sudden, everyone thought after last year it was going to be automation of this. Like, everything was going to be fully automated.
Let's not do this measurement things. It's a show for kids here, so let's try to use different things.
Come on now. It's like. And in typical fashion, everyone thought it was larger than it was. I can't help that.
Effect. Yes, I agree.
Can't help that, right?
It's not the size that matters; it's how you use it, right? It's how you automate it.
And right, and that's why women probably should have been in charge of implementing that whole solution.
I'm totally with you. Women should be in charge of everything. Seriously,
everything. We're just going to run it off.
Yeah.
That's a whole different show.
Dude, I'm totally fine staying home, cooking and cleaning. I have no problem.
You're just going to stay home. That's cool. I mean,
I have no problem.
Here's the thing. I think that. So you asked, am I having conversations with folks at the executive level at these things? In some organizations, yes. I will say that those conversations are sadly few and far between at this point. The conversations that are happening now, like in this first quarter, January to March, have really been more about frustration. About, oh man, I thought that was a beta. Like I can't tell you how many times I sit with executives and you're like, okay, so like what's on the strategy for this year? Where are we rolling things out? What are we doing? What's the go-to-market strategy for what you're up to? And they're like, yeah, we just kind of got this like rude awakening that like all the Voldemort stuff that we thought was going to be implemented, because we had all these use cases and like our selling process was going to be totally awesome, and all of our sellers were just going to be like, all they needed to do was close all day long. They didn't have to write an email. Right? That was just a beta. And you're like, did you not read that word? Like, and they don't have any results because they didn't have enough data to actually go into the damn thing to do anything. Right. So it's like when you don't, it's like last year was if I had to brand last year, it was like the year no one read all the words. Right. Like you had to read all the words. Like read
2023 TLDR.
Right. The year that no one read all the words. Because
2020 was like, a fire dumpster year. Yeah.
Right. Like 2020 was like the year the dumpster got rolled into the parking lot. Yeah. And we set it on fire for 2 years. Right. And we just forgot everything. And 2023 is like, well, we just decided not to read all the words. We just decided to read Voldemort.
So let's take that forward. Okay, so I mean, before I let you finish in a second, I'm gonna let you finish. But first, I want to say that Liz's statement is one of the best statements of humanity. But seriously, I mean, can we take one step further and saying 2024 is the year of the reset? I mean, we're done.
I think we're forced. I think it's going to be a forced reset. It's going to be a forced reset, and for some organizations, it's really going to hurt because they've bought into this mystical idea that they had bought this Ron Popeil chicken machine and they were going to set it and forget it. It was going to be awesome.
Dude, nobody bought into that. No smart person ever understood that. I mean,
the chicken machine. You want to know how many people? Bought that damn chicken machine, Esteban? I mean, Ron Popeil was a very rich man. He bought the chicken.
Yeah, but that was also the spraying hair thing. Don't forget that.
Right, but like they forgot that you got to season the chicken. You got to like do some stuff to the chicken. There was like a guy in the back that was called the food stylist that spray painted the chicken brown to make it look good.
Once you do that, you set it and forget it.
That'd be great. Set it and forget it. Set it and forget it. And you get the whole studio audience to scream it, right?
I know. I remember that.
So I do think that 2024 is going to be a reset. I think that it's going to be. I think that unlike before, when we had these moments of reset, right? Because we have them every, like, I want to say maybe it feels like every 5 to 6 years. There's like that moment where
we have them every
things
decade.
Have gotten out of control.
Every time there's a new technology, we go through the hype, we recover from the hype, and then if you go by Garner, hype cycle, right? The time that you get at the bottom is when you reset, and the time from origin to the bottom could be anywhere from 2 to 8 years. So somewhere between like 6 and 10 years, every 6 to 10 years, we have one of these movements, right?
So I think with this reset, though, it's not going to be as simple as, well, fire the people on your executive team, right? It used to be like, at least in CX, it used to always be like, well, fire your marketer. That'll solve all your problems. They screwed everything up and spent all the money. Fire your CMO. That's not the kind of reset we're going to have to look at, right? Because again, at the heart of this reset is a lack of data literacy. Doesn't matter what we need all the technologies we're looking at.
So then I mean, excuse me.
And then here's the bigger problem with data literacy. Now, when you cough, now I want to cough. When we start talking about data literacy, the book's getting a heck of a lot bigger, right? So it's not like I'm worried about, can people read the data book when it's like a little book?
Yeah.
In order to get Voldemort to do all the automations and all the things that we are expecting, either from real Voldemort or from fake Voldemort, right? All the things that we expect, and that has the potential, and we have the opportunity to actually do in these use cases, that actually substantively change process, change business, change outcomes, change growth. The important stuff, right? Is that not only are we going to need to have data literacy, that data literacy is going to have to be accelerated, and it's going to have to be a big, big book. Like, I'm talking, can you speed read War and Peace? Right? Like, that's the kind of data literacy that we're going to need. Because that's what we have to construct.
It's not just speed read. It's like, can you retain when you speed read War and Peace?
Exactly. Can you retain? Can you think differently? It's not just about summaries, or someone can write an email. Can you actually identify friction or an anomaly and then automate the change to that anomalous behavior? Right. And I think that's where we're going to start to see some of the differences. But the reset is more going to be about how we operate.
This is a fantastic point, by the way. This is one of the smartest points that I heard in the last 6 months talking to people. I had to recognize that, seriously, it is, because I mean, it's not. Hey, how about if I give War and Peace to ChatGPT and I give them a profile of my organization, and I say, can you adapt War and Peace to my organization? Give me the top 5 pieces of advice, which you can do, but you're gonna get crap anyway.
Sure.
But it's
who else did it? Cliff Notes, or whatever they call it now.
It's the same. It's the same name, I think.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Just what's the other one? The Total Idiot's Guide to whatever, right? That was the other one.
Right.
Like
the Dummy's Guide to Data, right?
Whatever. But seriously, so then where does that leave us? Because look, I've been called an asshole before. I'll be called the same again. 80% of the people in the organization, 80% of the people that we have are not the people that are going to take us there.
No,
and for
they're not.
20%, maybe 1/3 of them will get us there. So,
right.
So the 5% of people that we need to focus on, how do we train them? What do we train them on? What do we give them? What do we give them as a North Star, if you want to be like corporate, or as a guiding point, or as direction?
That's a good question. So my honest answer is it changes every day. So it's inherently not a North Star. Right. And I think that's really what we're in this.
So, by the way, here's a secret.
We're starting to move that.
Here's a secret. Don't tell anybody, but the position of the North Star in the firmament changes every single fucking minute of the year. So it's never a North Star,
It changes. Right. But that would really ruin a lot of corporate messaging assignments right now. Be like, what? No. But no, like, in all seriousness, I think that there is, and this is going to sound frivolous, and I don't mean it to sound frivolous, but I do think it's something that we are not allowing our people to do today, which is be unafraid and just use something, right? I think that we're calling it Voldemort, right? Like, I'll give you the example. So went to a conference recently, had a driver pick me up from the airport, and the guy was like, he's like 70 years old. We're like, hey, so what do you do, buddy? And he's like, oh, you know what I do on my free time? I play with Voldemort. Right? He's like, I play with AI. I'm like, what are you playing with AI with? Like, what are you talking about? You drive a car. Like, what do you mean you play with it? He does. Yeah. He's like, I decided that so many people were talking about this, and I didn't think it was real, and I thought it was going to kill people. that I decided that I was going to play with it for at least an hour every day so I could understand what it was.
Damn.
That's what we need. I need that 70-year-old guy. Like, I need that mindset and that mantra. Like, that guy needs to be doing it. Well, listen.
I need to recover from this one.
It was
driver looked at your older brother.
Well, I'm just going to tell you, if he was Hispanic and in Texas, then we were at the same conference. But this guy was classic. He was literally like, he was like, and then he starts asking us all these questions. And I've got to be honest with you, they were some of the smartest questions about using these tools that I've heard in a really long time. But there's so much punishment within a corporate environment. You would never allow one of your people to just go play with it. Go play with it, sure.
How is so? I don't know if you remember this, but one of the financial titans. I don't know. Pick your favorite one, like Lehman, and pick anybody. One of those guys, right before the depression started, said, "I knew that we were in trouble when the shoe shine was giving me stock tips on where to invest." Right. So, are we getting to that point in our society, marketplace, workplace that I'll say AI has become stock tips for investment before the depression?
No, I think that the tech bro in the Patagonia vest, who's got a new startup that's about AI, that's going to solve the world, it's going to cure everything. It's not a statement about Patagonia. Patagonia rocks, but I'm just saying.
And it's not a vest.
It's that. Yeah, it's not a vest. It's not the puffy vest, right? It's that. It's not that it exists. And in fact, I've seen a ton of really great applications, and I've seen a ton of really great outcomes. It's the ones. It's the prancing unicorns in the space who are like, it's gonna solve everything. I've got a great stock tip for you. That's the guy that's shining the shoes, and that's the guy that everyone's listening to, and that's the guy everyone's going to run after. But the reality is we're going to run after it, and it's going to become completely useless. And so the whole market's going to assume that AI is useless. AI is not useless. It's just not new. It's not shiny. It's not covered in glitter. It's not going to cure everything. It's not going to be the end all be all. It's not going to replace people. It's also not murderous, right? Like, it's not like when people.
Yeah.
Like, we've been working with this for how long, right? This is just, it's not when people.
I've been working in AI since 1984, when it was compilers and
right, but we've turned it into but it's human nature to want to anthropomorphize everything, right? We want to allow dogs to talk in cartoons. We want everything to have feelings. We anthropomorphize everything. And thanks to Hollywood, we have done this with AI, right? Like, do you know, here's a weird one. Do you know who the 13th most terrifying villain is in Hollywood movies, according to the American Film Institute? Number 13 on the list is Hal, the damn AI. Yes.
See?
Hal, the AI.
Brent had it. Brent had it right.
Brent totally had it. The 13th most terrifying villain. Not AI villain, but villain, right? So we've decided that AI... and now granted, that was a very well-written, terrifying scene. It learned how to read lips. It was like, that's it, Frank, you're dead. Sorry, right? Frank died. Yeah. So, but that's not what's happening. But we kind of get into this mental model where it is. So I think the reality is, when we start to talk about what we're going to do in 2024, for these executives, it's all the thing that I keep asking them, because there's, oh God, I'm about to bring up another really horrible phrase that, Esteban, you and I have probably heard a billion times. It's two phrases. Remember in like 2005, when everyone used to say things like, oh, I'm stuck in a phase of analysis paralysis. The organization just can't make any decisions.
As an analyst in 2005 with a company that I'm not allowed to mention because I would have to drink again. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what analysis paralysis means, but I agree with Brent and with Lord.
Right, like right. But we're back in the throes of that, right? There's people just using different words, but it's the same attitude of like, I can't possibly find my way out of this desert. Oh, the data's just so hard to make a decision. And
so then, I mean, and that was coming in the heels of the internet and before social, right? I mean, 2005.
Absolutely.
So
And we all
are we in the
we
same
couldn't get to
space?
personalization. We're totally in the same space. We're all
All
sitting
right.
here pearl clutching over personalization. We're all sitting here like, well, my God, so worried. I can't make a decision. It's like, okay, we've lived through this story. Like we understand what it's about. It comes back to data literacy every single damn time. So do something about that. Right? Invest in the trainings. But also don't punish your people when they get it wrong. And that's the really hard thing to do. So I think it's the reality of start with small things and start to do them quickly and start to do them fast. We've forgotten that muscle memory, right?
So
Change something. Don't automate old process. Automate
in
a new
19,
one.
in 1995, to put you in context on what you're saying,
I was
I was
just
working for a large
graduating high school.
banking. You were in high school?
No,
Okay.
no, I was very much
Whatever.
out of high school.
I thought
Very
you
much
were
out
in
of
middle school,
college.
but I thought you were in
No.
middle school in 95, but whatever.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but when I was working for a very large global banking organization in managing the systems for a trading desk, my boss at the time identified the internet and one of the up and coming things in the world. And I said, that's stupid. I have been working with the internet since 1986 through the whale and BBSs and all that shit in Unix and all that. And I said, but back then it was just a text-based thing where it's just connected to different places and downloaded documentations and have conversations. So I said, that's stupid. Why would anybody want to get on the internet? And he said, no, this is going to be it for us.
It's huge.
And he actually said something that until recently I did not give him credit for. He said, not only that, but people are going to be able to work from anywhere thanks to the internet. Right. So what we need to do is we need to figure out a way to get our systems secure so people can work from home and connect to our systems and work directly in our systems. And at the time, they exceptional technology was ISDN lines. You probably don't remember this. So I was put in charge of a project. I know, right? Going back to very OG here. But I was put in charge of a project where I was made to actually get as many ISDN modems as I could, get some ISDN lines from our providers, and then create a home working terminal for this stuff. So tin cans. I was in preschool for tin cans. But here's the funny thing. I mean, the only reason I'm bringing this up is because when he gave me that project, I cannot begin to tell you how frustrating it was and how many times I failed. But the fact that he stood behind me and actually, made me eat my words, which were like nobody cares about the internet, is what actually got me to be successful in the process. And we actually created a home work terminal for a trading desk that allowed people to work from home. And here's the best part. Northridge earthquake happened right about the time that we started with this. And I was in LA. And the Northridge earthquake, a lot of our people lived in the northern San Fernando Valley.
And guess what everyone had to do in the wake of that?
Exactly. So the point is this thing happens in 1995, happened in 2005, and it's happening again. We need to revise, the way that we do things and how we're going forward. And my question then becomes, if you're at that point, and we talk about data literacy, but it's not an investable platform, to be fair. I mean,
no, and people are going to say, well, how can I measure it? How do I measure it? How do I make a dollar from it? Right. The typical questions will come from there. Yeah. Right. But I think that
we go back to size discussions, right?
Right. Then we got to go back to the size discussion, and then there's the sliding scale of what does 3 look like? But whatever. I think that the question becomes,
dude.
I guess. Listen.
I don't know that big, but okay.
Stop. People are going to have to cut so much out of this. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I put a disclaimer at the beginning. There's a disclaimer,
so it's all fine. It's all fine. Yeah. I think that the reality here is that we keep looking for the thing we can invest in because that's what we can put our thumb on and say that that's what failed. And in your example, it wasn't that it failed. It's just you were able to use it. People worked from home, and then they moved on to the next thing, right? They moved on. People moved on from the next thing, and they didn't learn that lesson of, okay, what did we fundamentally take from that new process? They say, what did we take from the new technology? Because it's tangible, they know what to do with it. So no, what did you take from having a fundamentally new process and automating that? What was the outcome of that? So we also have to measure new things and measure different things. And that is very uncomfortable, right? Because I'll use marketing as my own worst example, right? As a marketer for well over 30 years now. When digital and all these channels came out, we raced into creating these fantasy boat full of metrics because we could finally explain things. We're like, we finally have numbers. Like, we can actually explain this. So we trained a generation of leaders to expect that X plus Y equaled outcome, right? But now that we've learned our lesson and we have better metrics and we have better analytics and we know all that other stuff was crap, we're trying to retrain that same generation. And oddly enough, they're not learning. Right. And I think that's what we're facing kind of in everything.
I
So
don't want to go into I don't want to go into my standard statement of that we have an entire generation that's lost, because that's what I believe. But why are they not learning that? What's the biggest holdover, barrier, block, whatever you want to call it? What's the biggest thing in the middle that is preventing these people from actually embracing that? These are people that were actually, mind you, this generation was born management.
Punishment. You're fired. You're fired.
Nobody gets fired anymore. People get laid off, and then they get reskilled and move into another job. We have a 3.2% unemployment rate. We have a 3.2 unemployment rate, and we have 100 million jobs that are going unfulfilled.
But you have zero incentive to actually do something new or try something new. You just gave the perfect example of what you experienced, right? Of you thought, oh, the internet's going to be crap. You were given the leeway, the permission, and quite frankly, the budget to be able to go and be forced to eat your own words, to try something different, to challenge no, and to challenge your own capacity to suspend disbelief, right? I can tell you, I think about one of my old bosses, and he, at least every day, I had to figure out if I had the capacity to suspend disbelief. I had to be able to go in, and if he said, I want to go do that, I had to have the ability to be like, okay, what you want to say is, shut the fuck up. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. It's never going to work. You're never going to be able to do it. That's not going to do a damn thing. But if I could suspend disbelief just long enough to just go do it and shut my own head off and just try to solve the problem, something different happened.
So
isn't suspended opportunity.
Is it suspended disbelief, or suspended disbelief, whatever you prefer? But is a suspended disbelief part of critical thinking? And
of course it is.
Isn't critical thinking no longer taught in our educational system?
Oh no, critical thinking is dangerous now.
Yeah.
Right. So where do we teach that skill? Is it now the responsibility of organizations, of enterprises who want to be able to advance, who want to be able to capture, when we say things like digital transformation and the glitter flies into the sky, right? If we actually want to capture that and actually take what all of our best intentions of those two words were, actually realize profitable, sustainable growth through that, is it our responsibility to teach that critical thinking and to foster that through some type of educational program? Now, you could argue that there are organizations that are doing that type of investment. You could argue that Zoho and Zoho University and training, reskilling, upskilling, giving people that opportunity, that year to 2 years to get upskilled in what these new technologies are, bringing women back into the workplace and upskilling and reskilling them, that is that type of investment, right? That is an argument. Can every organization do that?
There's a friend of mine whom Gabriele Risi from Teteca Pharmaceuticals.
Yep.
Love the guy, right? Yeah. Fantastic.
Love Gab. Hi, Gab.
Gab, yeah. He's never good. I tried to get it on the show, but he won't answer my emails anymore. I don't know what I said that pissed him off. But, there's a long list of things anyways. But one of the things he told me last year when we were talking about his experience with Gen AI, he said, I actually created a Gen AI Academy for every person in my organization. I sent them all to learn and understand what it is so they could actually carry out structure structure approaches to it versus being like, oh, let's just go to ChatGPT and ask, how to broil a chicken in 2 minutes or whatever. Right. And he's a fantastic leader. This. That's what I say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But he's also both. But here's the thing that I've always thought about Gab is that he wants to see both sides of the argument. And again, that's the core and the root of critical thinkers, right? It's not that he wants to be proven right. right?
Yeah.
He wants to see what's proven right, but what's also proven wrong. What was the good that came out of it, but then what was the learning that came out of it as well? Because you're always going to have both those things. Nothing goes 100% perfectly. And he accepts that. And he accepts that from his people as well. And then he empowers them to learn from what didn't happen, what didn't go right. And I think, and is willing to actually be the person that then stands up and says, yeah, it didn't go 100% right, but this is what we took from it.
So how do we take him and replicate him in the leadership that we need for the next 10 years? What are the features? No, I mean, let's make it easy. What are the personality traits, features, functions, whatever you want to call it, that we need? I'm trying to come up with something that we can recommend to every leader who's listens to the to say, like, this is what you focus on to make something like that happen, right?
I think that one of the things that I have always heard Gab do when he talks to his IT and his transformation teams is that he says yes more than he says no, because he's encouraging people to actually go and do. Think about something new. Think about something that they need to try. Think about something that they want to go do. And it's not frivolous. It's not like, oh, just say yes to every single investment people want to make. It's about say yes to projects people want to initiate, experiments that people want to try. And then he stays involved with it. So I think it's about understanding that, to say yes more than you're saying no when your team wants to learn and when your team wants to experiment, but then also be an active listener and understanding what they're learning. I think that is an art form that leaders have lost, is that critical thinking of understanding what that is. I also think that you have to have a little bit of kind of like salty sailor sarcasm. I don't know how else to call that.
We call that the Esteban factor.
We'll call it the Esteban. We'll call it the Esteban filter, right?
That's what we called it before, I
call it the Don filter in my own life, because I had this boss, Don Ebert, and it was always really funny because Don would always say, "So what?" If you couldn't pass the so what test, you weren't getting anywhere. Like, you could go in and be like, well, everyone's investing in this and everyone's doing this and everyone's doing these commercials and everyone's, posting, everyone's putting ads in this and everyone's doing it. He's like, so what? And if you got stumped by so what, turn around, just walk out the door, go, right? You had to really be like, no, here's the so what, and here's what it's going to do. And I think that we've lost the ability, not so much to answer so what, we've lost the ability to ask it. I don't see many leaders asking that anymore because it feels mean, right? Like, it feels like if you were to look at one of your team, like if you were to tell a leader right now who's sitting next to someone from HR, I'm going to ask every single person who wants this, so what? So what? Why do you want to do this?
I love what Brent just put up there. Stump the so what.
Exactly. But if you were to ask that, I guarantee you someone would be like, that's really mean. What do you mean, so what? Like, you diminish their idea.
It's the bare minimum.
I agree. I think it was some of the best training I ever had. And, this guy wasn't a, Six Sigma PhD fancy, like, he was a former soccer player. And he's like, no, honestly, so what? Why should I care about this? And if you can't stump that, but if you can't ask it, you're not necessarily the leader you think you are, right? If you were just going to be like, okay, well, we can try everything, instead of saying like, so what? Okay, so what is this going to do? Why are you so excited about this? And then you can't hear, you don't understand why they are. If you can't foster that, that's, we talk about data literacy so much, but that's what's going to foster that. That's going to foster the creativity. Is if you ask so what, and when someone stumps it, that you then say, absolutely, I'm gonna stand behind this, let's go do it. Awesome. Like, when Gab gets behind something, gets behind it.
Right. So to recap, so we have a couple of minutes to wrap up. So data literacy, probably the number one thing to invest in,
Yep.
We talk about technologies like security, architecture, and all that, but that doesn't matter because that's just the underlying infrastructure for data literacy, for critical thinking, and for, like, basically, so what?
The other thing that I would love to see people, when it comes to training, train everyone in writing again. If there's a number one thing that we've lost, it's the skill to actually write in a manner that demonstrates the critical thinking. And we are about to, so I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Adobe has released a new AI assistant in their PDFs. It essentially gives, trillions of PDFs the capacity to talk back to you. You can now look at those big catalogs and say, oh, okay, great. Give me a summary of this. Now, on the surface, that's super cool. ChatGPT being able to, write a summary, as Brent's put in there, right? That sounds really cool. So me putting an assistant into every PDF, so it's like, hey, what are the key takeaways from this? Me as a marketer sent a chill up my spine. Not because I want to know, I want to help someone or I want to train someone how to ask better questions or how to get more out of this summary. I have to completely rethink how I structure my content that is going to be turned into a PDF that an AI will then turn into a summary. I need to make sure that for the things that I'm writing, or anyone, let's say, in a B2B content marketing thought leadership role, do you know how to write in this world anymore? If everything's going to be brought down to a summary, do you know how to write for today? Not write for yesterday where you could put out a 30-page PDF and have the audacity to believe someone was going to read it. But do you know how to write today so that the summary engine is actually going to summarize what you intend to put out there in the world as something that is unique and new and durable and actually qualifies as thought leadership that stands the test of time? Or are you just going to let something churn out the same old thing that doesn't mean anything? So train everyone to write.
That, by the way, that's the clip of this hour, because that was fantastic. Brent agrees with you, but he takes it one step further, thinking that they would rather let AI take over than learn to rethink, and that's critical, because you have to rethink yourself every time there's a fucking change in the world. This adapt or die. Darwin said it early on, and he was right. You gotta adapt, and adaptability comes to thinking differently, acting differently, explaining yourself differently when writing comes in.
Yep.
I think that even if you throw Voldemort out of the equation, there's a lot that you can invest in this year: infrastructure, reskilling, if you want to call it that, which I fucking hate that word, but there's a lot you can work on that will be there. And I think that what he just said at the end there, the little clip that we're going to make a clip out of that's probably the best summary for like the whole hour that we've been there. So 2 more things I have to do here before we wrap up in the next minute or so. First of all, see. So Brent said earlier, he knows where I got my jacket, which, financial force. We all remember that. But I want to put that there because that's a shout out to Sandy Lowe, which actually gave us these jackets. And Sandy is probably one of the most amazing people. I know. She used to work for a shitty company before she became good at it with Soho. So
we love Sandy.
So shout out to Sandy Lowe, whom I was exchanging emails at 5 o'clock this morning, telling her how they can fix Soho, and she was disagreeing with me, but I appreciate the fact that she can. And then the last part is was Voldemort at Garner when you were there? Yes, I was there. And in the early 2000s, I took out Voldemort, which at the time was called NLP, for a spin. And I added, remember NLP? It's another thing that
good old NLP.
NLP was awesome. I had a couple NLP vendors that came from academia that we did some amazing projects with on thought leadership for AI at the time, except that we couldn't call it AI because, nobody cared about AI back then.
Well, no. I feel like Brent needs to create like an animated. Remember that, like, The More You Know on NBC, to be like that star that went across the screen. I think that Brent needs to create one of those for you that says, "When I was at Gartner," and it just needs to flash across the screen every time.
Don't give me many ideas. I do have in my inbox an intro and outro for the show that I have to that I have to approve so we can put him here. But don't give him any ideas. He doesn't need any ideas.
You know, with the rainbow star.
Yeah, whatever. So, anyways, but hey, thank you. What else?
You're welcome.
You know what? In all seriousness, I mean, I'm gonna step away from the joking about it, but Gartner was not only the best job that I ever had by far, but it's truly the place where, like, I learned the value of what I can do. So you can joke all you want about it. The company turned to shit. The company turned to shit. Most of my fellow analysts that were smart left, and what's left is not really worth talking much about, except for a few people. But It was
I
the
happen
best,
to like
the
a lot
best
of people
training
that are
ground.
over there. So yeah,
Yeah, it was the, it
well,
was
listen,
the,
I'll tell you.
absolutely.
I'll be honest with you. You want to know where I tell you people the best training ground is? If you want to go into sales, you want to go into revenue, anything like that, I dare you to go work at the Gap for a year. It is the
Yeah,
best training ground for
is it?
sales, even for enterprise sales.
I'm
Right?
looking
It
for a
is
next
the
career,
best.
so
I am telling you, it is the best sales training that and it has like historically, it's been they make you think about how do you ask open-ended questions? Like, how do you ask questions? So all those greeters in the front, you have to go through like hours of training to be one of those
really.
greeters in the front. And you have
Hmm.
to learn how to not make someone just turn around and walk out the door. So you can't say things like, here to find something? Because if they can answer in a yes or no answer, you've lost your customer. Like
Yeah.
literally, that's what they train you on. Where else? That's fundamentally 100% correct. Where else are you getting that training?
You know, I got that training when I ran my retail store, and I don't want to like repeat it ever again in my life, though. But
Bum, bum,
it was
bum.
it was one of the best experiences I ever had, and the best of time and the worst of times. It sucks to run retail, but I learned so much about it, anyways. So, anyways, thank you so very much. This was fantastic as always. I wish
Thank
we had more
you,
time,
as
but
always.
Brent, you know,
It's giving us the boot. 30 days of KFC, along with all the scars. I'm telling you, KFC.
Amazing.
I want
But this was fantastic. Like I said, next week we're talking to Brent and Steve Gilmore.
awesome.
We're going to be talking about new ways to collect and provide information. I don't even know what the fuck I said earlier. Whatever I said earlier is what the title is. You'll get it next week. We're allowed to swear
Awesome.
because we have a disclaimer.
Yep.
You know, we probably need to weave the disclaimer into the new intro for the show. Before the intro needs to be the
Yeah.
disclaimer now.
So
But thank you so much for being here. It was a great conversation, and you know, we'll you know, there you go. We need to start putting the names of people on top. It's like, you know, if any of these people are in the show, warning. If any of these people in the show, the disclaimer works. Yeah.
Yep.
But it was fantastic. I hope
Thanks
that
for
by
having
next
me
week
again.
I can shake off this fucking 100-year-old flu that I have.
Yeah, you're
it's
gonna have a
Spanish flu
different
in my
one.
world, but and with that, we are out. Thank you.